and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
Dating today with all the crazies out there has to be nuts.
Yes, it really would. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a place you could go to find people who think like you do?
Like me, like libertarians and conservatives?
Right?
There is WeThePeople.dating.
Amazing. What a genius idea. This is a site that you can go to if you're single and you are looking for somebody who you know you're going to think the same way, as for from a political freedom standpoint. If you want to date the right person for you, you'll find them in one place. WeThePeople.dating.
Have you done it? You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror?
I'm one of those people you don't want to see naked.
Yeah, most of us. But I mean, you look and you're going, what the?
I know.
How did I get to whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Hey there, it's Doc Thompson and Brad Staggs to tell you about a different way to shed those pounds. This is brand new tech. It's only been around for a couple of years or so. It was based on research from the University of California that said there's a molecule called OEA that's found naturally in your body. It produces it in the Mediterranean diet, that when taken in concentrated amounts, it will actually make you feel fuller and boost your metabolism.
I've lost about 10 pounds so far.
It's amazing.
It
Now,
really is cool.
A company said, we can take this to market and make this great product that'll help you. It's called RiduZone, RIDUZone.com, RIDUZone.com. It's Brad's worked. It's worked for Brad's, worked for me, countless other people. Go to RiduZone.com and try today. You're going to love it. RiduZone.com. Remember that, RIDUZone.com.
Yeah, it's better if the microphone's over here in front of my mouth, man. Doesn't do much setting up over the raspberry blueberry syrup from Nostalgia Rice, better known as SpoonyRice.com. Man, I'm not feeling off, but that beer for breakfast segment's put me behind a little bit. I don't know. Matt Locke, hope you and Tom have a great, successful weekend, or last couple days of the week back in D.C. Yeah, go make us some money. Get some advertising, whatever. Put the name out there. Get some followers. Don't forget to give Spoonie some love. Anyway, man, I got to start to share this stuff sooner to my page, right? Start a page. I need to, a page I manage. That would be mine. Share to my timeline. Go. Just share, baby. Let's go. Post. All right. Now I need to start a watch party. So, man, it's Wednesday already. It's Wednesday. Wednesday. Wine on Wednesday. Wine down Wednesday. We got to do something about wine today. I think we'll do that in the second hour. May even have a special caller for us. Actually, a very good friend of mine from Northwest Arkansas. And we're going to start a watch party here. We're going to start a watch party there. Just post, baby. Get it done. All right. So I have a special caller, actually, who is a listener. And he's been a listener of Doc's for quite a while, and I'm not going to mention full names, but he has been working on a product for quite a while now. We'll go through the whole history, but he was diagnosed with cancer, survived. His mother's a cancer survivor, and he started looking at the properties of a very special complex carbohydrate, which a lot of people believe is the perfect carbohydrate for the human body. And so we're gonna do a little case study here about bringing a product to market. I've done this several times. There are several obstacles you need to overcome. Obviously, financial. You need to find the right production facility, maintaining the integrity of the original recipe as you move forward into making a commercially viable product from a production standpoint, and then also maintaining not just the flavor profile but also the nutrient and the nutrient content of that product. So we're going to talk about that. This product happens to be a bar, okay, and it is I wouldn't call it necessarily just any bar. It's a nutritional bar, a meal supplement bar, and I really don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't recall the first launch of a nutritional bar, a meal supplement bar in the United States. We think of protein bars, we think of all this other stuff. I can't think when I first saw them. I mean, Cliff Bar has been around for a long time, and protein powders have been around for a long time. But, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure where energy bars came from. So there's a couple here. Here's one right here. The history of the energy bars in a nation obsessed with food. So you got Kind. That's fairly new. Kind's fairly new. Crunch. Crunch is one of my favorites, by the way. If you haven't had those, I had one for breakfast today. Crunch has a chocolate-ish, I'm going to say it has a chocolate coating, whether it be white or dark, mostly white. And then it has this crunchy protein, almost like the, not Nutter Butters. What's the other peanut butter wafer thing that, maybe they're like a pocket. They look like a ravioli, but they're filled with peanut butter. But the outside, the crispy cracker cookie part of that, it when you bite into it, it turns into a sticky, gooey feeling instead of just melting away in the mouth. They're awesome. I love Crunch Bar. The Power Crunch bars are awesome. Yeah, Balance Bars, Layer Bar, Fit Joy. What other ones are there? There's Muscle Milk, Luna. Luna was one of the first ones I recall. Quest, I remember Quest. And you've got the what is this other one? We eat a lot of those. RX Bar. RX bars are great. RX bars they tell you right on the front. It's like 6 egg whites. I'll say 3 egg whites, 6 almonds, 4 cashews, 2 dates, no BS. No BS is always the final ingredient. They have a very good product. Layer Bar is another one that's a very clean product, but you have to look at their ingredients because they change frequently. And if they run out of a particular ingredient for a specific bar, dates are or fig. Fig is a big ingredient as a base product for their bars. Anyway, they're a good whole ingredient, like a very whole, healthful product that includes all of the, basically all the stuff you get from the product in its natural state, even after it's been processed. So, I mean, there are a ton, but I'm thinking it must have started. I'm gonna assume, and I'm gonna read the article. I'm gonna assume this started in probably the 1960s. The reason I'm saying this is that's when we started sending astronauts into space. The space program was in full swing. They needed a way to get a full meal in a few bites, and it needed to be transportable. It needed to have a shelf life, a long shelf life, at room temperature, whether that be in space or on the ground, terrestrial. And it had to be easy. I mean, it had to be individually packaged, right? It had to be sealed, packaged, and easy to consume. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen when they drink water in space, they float a droplet into space and gobble it up, or they do the same thing with goo, like these fruit purees. They take this pouch and put a little bit into weightless orbit along with them around the Earth, and they kind of reach out and gobble it. Now, hopefully, none of that got on the equipment at any point, but it's interesting to me how that all works, how that all came about. As a side note, there is a very, very interesting process that came out of this. It's called HACCP. And HACCP is Hazardous Analysis and Critical Control Points. And if anybody out there is a chef, or you've been in food production, or you work in, anything to do with food, really, you've probably heard the term. Maybe not in restaurants so much, unless you do a lot of sous vide, or you have a very complicated line of produced food items that require multiple stages as far as time and temperature exposure to the elements at room temperature, especially. But HACCP became a way for the developers of food for space through NASA or at NASA to determine the critical control points for food as it passed from receiving in its raw form to eating in its final form. All right, so you have receiving, storage, whether it's cold or warm, and then production, and then back into storage, and then typically into service, whether that be in a packaged state or in a service state in the restaurant. Now, most ingredients have about a 4-hour span. That 4-hour window is the amount of time that they can be exposed to the elements. So seafood, for example. Seafood's probably even less, but we'll take something simple. Let's take something like milk, dairy. Milk can be, okay, it's received at the door at a specific temperature, 38 degrees, 42 degrees. You're under 45 degrees, so you're in the proper temperature zone, and or under 40 degrees. So now you've received a product that's in the proper temperature zone, but it might sit there 10 minutes before the kitchen manager arrives to check in the order. So now 10 minutes have passed, right? You get 10 minutes, all right? Okay, so the temperature danger zone is 40 to 140. Okay, that's not the same in every state. It's not, it changes all the time, but 40 degrees to 140 degrees is the temperature danger zone. All right, so now it sits there for 10 minutes. It's at the proper temperature. It's at 38 degrees. Now, it sits there for 10 minutes. Now it gets up to 40 degrees. So now it starts the time clock. So it was exposed for 2 minutes above 40 degrees. Now it's put into the cooler. It takes maybe another 10 or 15 minutes for that to cool back down below 40. So now you're at 17 minutes of that 4-hour window is gone. All right. And it, depending on what is, okay, we'll say it's even a 2-hour window. Just say 2-hour window in the temperature danger zone. So now you pull the product out. You get all your ingredients to make a big batch of, we're going to make cheese sauce for mac and cheese. But we're going to make 5 gallons. All right, so the first thing you do is you're sauteing onions and garlic and olive oil. But your milk is sitting on the counter with all the other ingredients for, say, 40 minutes till you get to the point of putting it in. So you're sauteing the onions, the garlic. You put in your flour as a thickening agent. You got to make a roux. So it's been 30, 40 minutes. Or maybe you got distracted. You get called out to the floor. An employee calls in sick. You have other things to deal with. Another order came in. You're receiving your produce. So now this has sat out for, say, 40 minutes at that temperature, but we'll say 23 minutes to make it easy. We're above the danger zone. So you have 25 plus 17. You now have 40 minutes that product's been in the danger zone. So the danger zone is where bacteria really start to propagate. So above 140 degrees and below 40 degrees is fairly safe. Is it perfectly safe? No, it depends on the bacteria, because certain bacteria can breed in higher temperatures and at lower temperatures. But that's one where you see a growth curve that goes from, okay, we're going up by 10%, by 20%, by 20%, and then all of a sudden, every hour you're going up by 5-fold, 100-fold. I mean, it's crazy. It's in the terms of my Boston friends, wicked scary to see when the growth curve goes from this kind of very slow growth increase to exponential growth. It spikes. It almost goes directly vertical, right? And then until that product is cooled down back down below the 40-degree level or above the 140-degree mark, it's in that danger zone, and it keeps increasing the bacterial repopulation or increase in population. It's absolutely frightening. Anyway, so what NASA did, we're not going to go through the whole life cycle product. NASA came up with this way of determining the critical control points, right? And then how do you remove them, avoid them, or keep a record such that you do not exceed the critical time and temperature limits of any specific product, and that's called HACCP. So HACCP. It's a very, if you are a restaurateur, you're a chef, you're anybody that is involved in food production, you really should know this. I would recommend that you start keeping logs on product that's put out at room temperature during production times, and it's a very fascinating stuff. It's boring if you're not interested in food safety, but if you're in the industry, you should be interested in food safety. Otherwise, you shouldn't be in the industry. I've only ever been involved in one single foodborne illness outbreak, and we're not going to talk about where it was, but it was frightening because it was something we never could have controlled. The restaurant was designed with it didn't have sensors on the faucets in the bathroom. This is a place where thousands of people, it's a metropolitan area, thousands of people come through every week, and on their way through, they sell their wares, they do what they do. But apparently there was one person or multiple that were ill, and they went to the restroom. They did not wash their hands. And even if they had, Maybe they didn't wash them well. Now, there's a problem with certain foodborne illnesses in that they become airborne, right? So they land on other surfaces within the restroom. So they may land on the door handle or on the bathroom, on the toilet knob. They may land anywhere within that region. They can be inhaled, they can be touched and then consumed. Anyway, so that person, whether or not they did wash their hands, they did not do a good job. Or someone else went in, touched a surface which was contaminated and then didn't wash their hands. Now you go back to a table. Not a problem. Well, it is a problem. It was Christmas time, about. So now you have people, or just after, very busy restaurant, doing 400 meals a day, sometimes more. You sit down at a table, you didn't wash your hands, now you touch your glass. Okay, so you touch your glass, big deal. No, it is a big deal. You touch your glass, but then maybe you touched your fork, you touched the plate, and maybe there's a piece of flatbread. You guys are sharing a flatbread, or you're sharing some other item on the table, dinner roll. You decide you don't want the whole dinner roll, you're going to split it and put it back in. Now somebody else grabs the other dinner roll, that dinner roll is now contaminated. The plate's contaminated, the fork's contaminated, a spoon, whatever else you touched, somebody else's water glass, their hand. Oh, that's such a funny story. Now they're contaminated. Now, whatever other surface they touch, it takes very few particles per million for this to make you ill, for most illnesses. Now what happens? The server goes back in the kitchen. They take the dishes with them. They scrape the food into the garbage. They put the plate up there. Now, each server, whenever they bring back a dirty plate, should be required to wash their hands when they leave the kitchen. And we had that requirement. But apparently, it didn't happen, right? And so they go back out on the floor. Now they're touching other plateware. They're touching other silverware, glassware. They're refilling glasses at the table. Now somebody touches that glass with their hand. They touch their neighbor. They put their hand to their mouth. They wipe their nose. Anyway, that's how these things spread. Now you also have a dishwasher. So the dishwasher is working with dirty dishes on one side, right? It's always best in a busy restaurant to have two dishwashers, clean guy, dirty guy, right? So the clean guy, he's just putting away clean dishware. That's all they do. Keep it from piling up. The dirty guy, he's spraying dishes off, loading up the racks, shoving them in the dishwashing machine and letting it go. And then he goes to the next rack. Now, if it's the same person, now this guy's touching a dirty plate with his hand that's been contaminated. He's rinsing off the plates, washing everything. He decides not to one time, or just forgets to one time, put his hands in the sanitation bucket, which you can't just put them in there and then let them, go right to doing clean plates. And you can't dry them on a towel because you need time for that sanitation substance, that chemical, to dry in your hands and kill all the bacteria. Air dry, that is. Then you go over and start putting dishes away. Well, okay, so now you've got bacteria from the dirty dishes on the clean dishes, and now it just spreads like wildfire. It becomes a ridiculous, uncontrollable mess. I've only ever seen that one time, and we were very blessed that no one got deathly ill. One person was hospitalized, an elderly woman who was in her 80s, and it was the most frightening thing in my life. I really just prayed that no one died and that the health department didn't shut us down permanently. We didn't shut down, so to speak, but we did have a number of staff who were gone for, you had to be gone for a minimum of 7 days. And then at that end, you had to be retested to see if you had the bacteria in your body. And I won't go into the testing, but let's just say there were samples involved. Let's just say that. And then now you have an entire staff who's aware of what's going on, who you have to try and play damage control with. Maybe there's an unhappy staff member and they tell everybody in the world, oh yeah, it's such an unsanitary, unclean place. It's a difficult thing to deal with. If you can at all avoid that, I would study HACCP. I would talk to your health department about what are the 5 major concerns there are for our establishment when you look at the food service line, how we produce food, and how we bring the dirty dishes back in. All right, so all that aside, back when, and let's see if I was right. So, like memory foam and Tang, the first energy bars were made for astronauts. Pillsbury created space food sticks in the 1960s, quote, to be able to take into space, to have long shelf life, to not have to be refrigerated, says Natalia Petrushkina, Petrozzilla, a postwar historian in the New School and at the New School and the author of an upcoming book about fitness culture in America. In 1970, Pillsbury filed a trademark for space food sticks, then repackaged and advertised them to consumers as nutritionally balanced between meal snacks. Fascinating. Anyway, at the bottom of this hour, we're going to talk about how you bring one of those products to market. What is the entire, what's the entire thought process? What was the idea behind it? And how do you find the right ingredients? I always want to work for, is it Kasha or Kashi? I always want to work for that company because they have great commercials where their rep is traveling the world looking for new ingredients, trying new foods, and that would be like the ultimate job, going country to country, remote region to remote region, trying foods, and then thinking about ways to incorporate that into a very healthful, diet. I mean, as a line of food items. That would be fascinating to me. As a matter of fact, if and when we soon make money on this channel and our sister channel, we make enough money that we all take a reasonable sized paycheck, I will do that. I love traveling to new cultures, exploring and exploring new food, finding new ways to incorporate that into my style of cooking, and then serving friends, family, and those that I love to serve in restaurants with those dishes. One of my, well, he was a very close friend of mine. I haven't spoken to him in a while. Martin Oswald is a great chef in Aspen, Colorado, and he was a chef at Syzygy. He now runs, can't think of the cafe. He runs a restaurant it was at the Explore Bookstore. I'm pretty sure it's still Explore Bookstore, but he's an amazing chef. He was trained in spa cuisine in Austria. He came to the United States. He worked in Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, somewhere in that area. He got a visa by coming to the United States to work in a schnitzel house, and then worked his way out. He ended up in Vail, Colorado, and then ended up in Aspen. And he was at Syzygy, where he did very well. He actually won the wild game competition, which is like between you have Vail, Vail, Telluride. There's a couple other ones that are there, these other ski resorts, and all the chefs compete to see who can come up with the best wild game product, wild game dish. His was actually it was a elk tenderloin that he won with. So when I worked with him, he would travel. So there are two seasons in Aspen where you have vacation time. There's mud season in the spring, and there's kind of that shoulder season between fall and winter when it's not cold enough and not snowy enough to ski, and it's not warm enough to still enjoy summer at the end of, even into late fall. It's just kind of this off season. You have 3 to 6 weeks of season where nobody can really do anything. He would always travel. And I remember he came back from Thailand while I was working with him, waiting for Matsuhisa to open up, and he had all these fantastic ideas. I remember he took this great seafood puree and he put it between these interior leaves of leek, and we steamed that. It was fantastic. It was kind of a take on like lau lau from Hawaii, or Polynesian lau lau, which is typically snapper or a white fish like that has a little bit of bacon, coconut milk, and it can have chive or it can have some sort of onion on it, but you wrap it in a banana leaf and then you steam it. And it is one of the most lovely, flaky, flavorful fish dishes I've ever had. They do something similar in the Philippines, and a lot of other cultures have them. But he would try to incorporate this into his food. And chefs that don't take the opportunity to travel, or at least step outside their little region and eat foods that are not part of what they specialize in, I think it's unfortunate. I think it's an opportunity to grow. Not to get too far off the subject of the health bars, but we're going to talk about that in the second half here. It's going to be a real fun call, and I'm really excited about what might come out of this long term. I have some people I want to introduce this young man to and see if we can't make something happen. So, all right, so we're down to a couple minutes left. Cliff Bar. I don't know how long a Cliff Bar has been around, but I really like Cliff Bars. I want to say they've been around since, so Power Bar came out in the 80s. Okay. I want to say, I want to say like Cliff Bars came out around maybe 95 or 97, somewhere in that time. There was Cliff Bars, Balance Bars, and from Muscle Milk. Oh, there are the bars from Muscle Milk. And then what's the other one? The Pure Protein Plus. There was the Body for Life stuff came out for a while. Body for Life, I'm not sure if they had bars, but they had the shakes. They had the supplement shakes. That was Bill and his brother, the Phillips boys. That was if you want to try a program that will challenge you and kick your ass into shape, Body for Life, hands down, I think the best program out there. That's just my personal opinion. And it's only 20. So it's 20 minutes of cardio 3 days a week. Okay, increasing. It's basically high intensity cardio hit, and then the eating program is fairly simple. And then you have 3 days of working out, and it's basically upper body, lower body, upper body. And then the next week it's lower body, upper body, lower body. So you never do one body part more than twice or more than once every 3 days. It's fantastic. Anyway. Body for Life program, very good, and we'll talk about it another time. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Again, catch us on the other side. We got a lot of things to talk about. We got some new show hosts. We're going to talk about this new nutritional bar. We got a second hour coming up. We'll talk about some wine, some interesting food facts. Again, Chef Patrick Mosher here, the Food Biz Pro. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
We bring people to take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's DIA Thrive.com. Never Forgotten Apparel is more than just a premium women's and men's clothing line. It's a movement to remind us to wear American-made and serve those who serve us. Our heroes. Never Forgotten Apparel gives 20% of their total sales to nonprofits that support homeless veterans and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
Have you done it? You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror?
I'm one of those people you don't want to see naked.
Yeah, most of us. But I mean, you look and you're going, what the?
I know.
How did I get to whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Hey there, it's Doc Thompson and Brad Staggs to tell you about a different way to shed those pounds. This is brand new tech. It's only been around for a couple of years or so. It was based on research from the University of California that said there's a molecule called OEA that's found naturally in your body. It produces it in the Mediterranean diet, that when taken in concentrated amounts, it will actually make you feel fuller and boost your metabolism.
I've lost about 10 pounds so far.
It's amazing.
It
now,
really is cool.
A company said, we can take this to market and make this great product that'll help you. It's called RiduZone, R-I-D-U zone.com, R-I-D-U zone.com. It's Brad's worked. It's worked for Brad's, worked for me, countless other people. Go to RiduZone.com and try today. You're going to love it. RiduZone.com. Remember that, R-I-D-U zone.com.
And we're back, Spoony listeners and Spoony viewers. Oh, hey, don't forget where you can find us. Facebook, it's Spoony Radio. On all social media, it's at Spoony Radio. And you can find us at, Spoony.com. That, actually, if you click the Listen Live link, it actually takes you straight to our iHeartRadio channel, and you can listen live. We're going to have a call here in just a minute. We're going to have Rich calling in, and we're going to talk about the advent and, well, we're going to start a case study on how do you develop a new food product, even if it's in a niche that's already been developed. How do you bring that to market? So, yeah, there's so much out there. Oh, Chef Mark Conway just launched right previous to this show with his new podcast. It is called Family Meal, and he had a great guest on today. Actually, a former White House chef. It's a very, very, very cool, very interesting interview. And family meal's great. We had another guy, Rob Carson. Rob Carson launched yesterday afternoon, and his second show this week will be coming out tomorrow. We signed another host today as well. We have Jay Ducote. He is actually he does a great podcast out of where is he based out of? Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He's actually down there covering a whole bunch of fun down in Nolens during Mardi Gras right now. He's going to drop a show in the box for us sometime next week. We'll be doing a weekly show with him. And if you don't know him, he's from Food Network. He's got a full-time gig right now doing his podcast. He does a 2-hour weekly podcast. Not to mention, I know he's being courted by a really big sports network trying to do a daily show for them. So he does a lot of really cool tailgate coverage. He's big in the foodie world, let me tell you. All right, we do have a caller in line. Frank, let's see if Frank is there. Frank, you there, brother?
Hey, Patrick.
How you doing, man?
I'm here, Patrick. Good. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm living the dream. Just,
Awesome.
As far as anyone knows, we're living the dream, right?
Listen to some of those promo shows, and I definitely need to hear that family meal with Mark Conway. That's great.
I'll tell you, his first show, which just concluded right prior to mine, it was really good. It was a great interview. His subject has cooked for, I think, 5 presidents, kings, queens, princesses. It's very cool. One of the really interesting facts that I learned about working in the White House is that I believe there are 53 chefs that work in the White House right now. Every one of them is a Navy cook / Navy chef. They started out in the Navy. I think that's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
I went the wrong route. So if you start at McDonald's, you end up in radio. If you start out in the Navy, I'm just joking. Oh, so let's give a little backstory, right? We met briefly at Doc's, kind of his celebration of life. And
sure did.
You gave me a little bit about your personal story, which we were not going to talk a lot about that, but you had this idea that you wanted to just talk to. You said, hey, can you give me any advice? I have an idea about a nutritional bar with a very specific main ingredient, which we're not going to go into because,
Yep.
There are people with money out there, more money than I have, and probably more money than you have. And if they think it's a good idea, you know what happens. The first to market with enough money wins. So, but I agreed that this key ingredient is actually, just a phenomenal base ingredient to start with. And so let's I'll let you tell you in your own words how this all started. Let's go through everything. Like, your beginning. I know you have a very diverse food culture from the beginning. You were born, lived, and traveled internationally. Let's talk through some of that stuff and how you got interested in in cooking in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in the United Kingdom in a place called St. Albans. It's about 25 miles northwest of London. And the only reason that I was born there was because my dad had British lineage, and we were living overseas in Israel at the time, and he wanted us, my brother and myself, my brother was the firstborn male, and I was the second. He wanted us to both be born in the United Kingdom. So shortly after I was born, we went back to where we were living in the Middle East, in Jerusalem, a place called Beit Hanina. But kind of backing up from there, before all of that type of food culture, my dad was born and raised in India in a place called Kannur, the southern part of India. And so he was exposed to lots of different Indian food, different spices, different cuisine. And growing up, he introduced that all to us, along with, of course, the cuisine from living in the Middle East, traveling there, and that just opened up a whole world of flavors thanks to my dad. I mean, he'd prepare these wonderful meals, mostly because of Southern Indian, right, really hot stuff. But every now and then he would tame it down, and I tell you, I remember meals just looking around the table, and he and my older brother would just take off, basically seeing who could stand the hottest curry. It was just a ride.
So are you a hot food junkie as well?
I am, not as much as they are. They're well above me, and even my younger brother, he can take that stuff pretty hot. I'm somewhere in there. So when you go to the Indian restaurant, they ask you, the 1 to 5. I would say I'm in about the 3 to 4 range, which is pretty hot. But
that's pretty hot.
5 is just a little beyond me.
Yeah, so I'm good to about habanero level. So I like Thai chilies a lot. The Thai chilies. Serranos are fine. Jalapenos are not a problem. Habanero Scotch bonnet. That's about my limit right there. You start going any hotter than that, like Carolina Reapers or ghost chilies and.
In fact, I remember one time my younger brother, he was really into the hot stuff, right? And he wanted to make his own hot sauce. And so we just love to experiment with food and food science. And so he was making it, and he accidentally rubbed his eye, and
oh no!
About 15 minutes later, we were in the emergency department.
So it's funny because that's the ultimate test of cross contamination, right? A lot of cooks,
exactly.
a lot of chefs I've known, we use a lot of habaneros, and they don't wear gloves, and they won't wash their hands very well, and they go to the restroom after. And let's just say you really feel it. Those oils are really volatile. Doesn't matter what body part they're touching. It's absolutely frightening.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. So with this diverse food culture, this background, right? Then what did that lead to?
So basically, that led to a lot of experimenting with different food around the house. My sister used to cook cuisine, usually French, and I used to tell her the servings are too small. Could you make some more food? My mom used to bake a lot of my mom used to bake a lot of Americana type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then even my aunt was a contributor to Taste of Home. In fact, even if you Google her now, Penny Kester, you'll find out a lot of the recipes that she contributed. So growing up, traveling to the farm country in upstate New York where my mom was from, taking in some of these like whole foods, tasting my aunt's cooking, my sister's cooking, experimenting with family, just led to the joy of cooking itself. And it caused me, against my male teenage boy friends' advice, to join home ec.
Hey, you know what? You learned something very, very, very vital at that age. To be honest with you, that most people never learn before they get out of high school, or even ever learn.
Oh man, I did, and I loved it. Just even learning how to make something basic like a really good grilled cheese, and learning what to call the utensils, and it turned out that my teacher came up to me at the end of the year. I still laugh about thinking about this, and she said, "I know you might be embarrassed, but," she said, "can I give you the Home Ec Student of the Year award?"
That's awesome.
That was just like, wow. I don't know if I can do this in front of all my friends, but I did get it. But I learned life skills. So I mean that was just early on because of all that exposure, the love of food. But it really transitioned into kind of a necessity because as a young child and then a teenager, I started having some health problems, anemia, low iron, having some migraines, having some vitiligo, which is kind of an autoimmune disease, kind of known as the Michael Jackson disease. And it started getting me thinking about just healthy eating and healthy exercise, but then I didn't have access like we do now to kind of the tools to be able to do this, let alone the resources as a child and young adult. But that really started me on this path that later on in life, having some more drastic health problems, discovering I had cancer, really having more to live for, especially with a family, it made me realize that, hey, I need to really get serious about not only my enjoying food, but also using food as something that is health related, something that can not cause me harm, but something that can cause me help. So it kind of changed. That was a pivot point, I think. It changed my view of food and looking at food as more holistic, if you will, beyond just the taste and all the experiences of the contrast and culture and all this stuff.
Well, and I talk about all the time, you really are what you eat, and people don't think about, when we're young, we don't think about what we put in our bodies. And a lot of people, as we get older, we don't think about what we put in our bodies, but it's vital, right? We are, the molecules that make up your body are the molecules that made up your food. It's that simple, garbage in, garbage out, good food in, good out. It's just, You're a byproduct of what you eat. But we don't know that. And I want to touch on something you talked about real quick, because we spoke the other day about people don't understand what a really beautiful area upstate New York is. All right, everybody says, "Oh, you're from upstate." Most people don't know what that means. It's not just a beautiful area. It was for many, many years one of the biggest. I think it was second in dairy production only to Wisconsin for years and years, until California came on the scene. And it was one of the biggest producers of both feed and table food corn for a long time. And I'll tell you, it's beautiful. I mean, and the farmland up there is really fertile, and it takes very little any sort of fertilizer to really grow things really, really healthy and profitable vegetables. Farming was a big deal and still is a big deal in New York. So that's been overlooked. But that aside, so after you became ill, you had all these challenges as a young man. So I know one of the things you talked about was the unexplained source of what was misdiagnosed for a long time as fibromyalgia, which fibromyalgia is kind of a catch-all for something when you have acute pain in the muscles, aches and pains that they can't identify. A lot of times it's just lumped in there. So, but I mean, what did you do? Where did you turn to after that?
Yeah, to tell you that road was really frustrating, because when you know you have symptoms, sometimes it felt like my ligaments would snap. My muscles just didn't have the energy, and I was very active. I was in college. I played club volleyball before they had a college team for Loyola in Chicago. I was very much into running. Used to play volleyball. My brother and I would do doubles beach competitions, and that's intense stuff. And over time, as I continued to try to do these things, the symptoms of fibromyalgia really inhibited me to the point that later on I could not exercise. And the irony is that exercise is supposed to be good for those things, but my body was hurting so much that I couldn't do it. So after a bunch of tests to figure out whether it was sleep apnea, whether it was allergies and autoimmune stuff, they just couldn't figure it out and said, well, it's likely this. So I turned to doing some research on my own, and I came across, I cannot remember his name. It was a Canadian doctor who he used to give the same diagnosis to his patients, and he writes about this, and he says he used to joke about it because that was the diagnosis they gave when they couldn't figure it out, what was really the source of the problems. And so he ended up getting in an auto accident and then started having the symptoms of fibromyalgia. And his approach was really, hey, this is spinal trauma that causes this referential nerve pain. So that was his approach, and I started operating under that approach because I had a spinal condition, a genetic condition, and I thought the migraines and all this stuff was genetic. But then as things they'd improved a bit with supplements he recommended and exercises and things that he would do. But then I thought, there's got to be more, because I'm really not feeling myself. So I turned to a doctor named Jacob Teitelbaum, and he had a book called From Fatigue to Fantastic. And he started talking about more protocols of what you could do with your physician, more tests that you could do, more dietary approaches, more supplement approaches, and he really got into some of the science behind it. And so I added that stuff to my protocol. But yeah, shortly after that was when I had the cancer, and it wasn't until I went off all my supplements that I realized how much the supplements were truly helping me. But then afterwards I said, you know what, we were doing all these supplements, but I was still having some issues. It was a lot better. I need to step it up and do something even more with food. So fortunately, my younger brother, Britt, and his wife, Michelle, they were both into the paleo diet. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, guys, I want to work out now real hard. I'm getting serious. I've got a family to live for. I had twin children and a youngster at the time that was just about 3 to 6 months old. And I said, I got a lot to live for. Let's get really serious about this. So I started the paleo diet, and I know you know a lot about that particular diet and some of the pitfalls to it.
Yeah, a bit.
And as I Yeah, as I started to work out with a personal trainer and get really intense, I mean, boot camps and, running 5,000 stairs and just doing these really intense things, I would bonk. I would just hit the wall like nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept on thinking, oh, this is my condition. It wasn't necessarily anything that, else I was doing. And I started realizing as I started talking to other people, we had a nutritionalist at the hospital that I worked in where I did all my exercise that started talking about some of these things. And she said, you got to get some carbos.
Yep, you run out of carbs.
And, exactly. So that took me on a whole different path to figure out how could I get these carbs? Like, where am I going to get these from? And, how can I balance these things to help me feel better and not feel worse? So this same nutritionalist, she hooked me up to a site called whfoods.com, also known as the world's healthiest foods. And I was a kid in a candy store, man. I was like looking at that site, and I have a pre-med background, and I was getting into this whole science and the research, and they would tell you, we believe celery is a superfood, and let's give you 5 studies on why, because they fed mice these fatty foods, but when they fed them the essence that's in celery, it negated the fat. And so somebody joked with me, they're like, yeah, this is why you need to have the celery that comes with the hot wings. Because that's gonna help.
Well, that is kind of true, that's hilarious.
But I loved that site. I mean, it started to give me all the information I needed from nutritional information, but that's also where it started me on this path of, hey, there's grains out there that are gluten-free, and there are other sources of carbs, vegetables even, that can really help you prevent that bonk, whether you have these issues with, immunity or allergies or different things like I had. And so it started this road of just experimentation with a bunch of those grains.
So, man, that's a very, here's what I like. It's a very detailed story. Sorry. So Trey Chapman just gave me the inside line on something here. He was trying to, sorry for all you watcher viewers out there. I was not being rude to our guest. He's just being a friend, making sure I get some inside information on something I need to cover here real quick. So
cool.
You did all this research. You were looking at the world's healthiest foods, change in diet and exercise. Everything started getting better, but you must have plateaued at some point, or you must have found out that certain dietary fibers / complex carbohydrates work best for you, or something that you became an advocate for, which we won't talk about. And you noticed that there's a gap, right? There's a gap in this market. So, well, okay, let's talk about the separate from that. Okay, you went to the World Healthy Foods. You started looking at all these food sources, but then you started talking to other people who had similarities, right? In either diagnosis, in history of symptoms, and so on and so forth, especially on the neuromuscular side. And what were you seeing from that? What were there? Were there patterns?
And I tell you what, I learned this from my dad. I'm not a shy person. I would walk up to somebody that I saw that had this Michael Jackson disease, and I would just start asking them, hey, when did you notice that? What happened? Did you notice anything different? Did you do anything with diet? Or, somebody who had MS, I had a good colleague, how do you eat? What do you do to accommodate this? And one of my colleagues had a certain, diet. And you and I talked about this with she would eat one thing at a time and just basically let her body digest it for 45 minutes to an hour. And, we're talking one item. If it was, broccoli, that's what she ate.
Well, and, we talked about that. Look, with meat and potatoes, you're basically making vodka in your body. Because you have the slow processing protein and the quick digesting potato, that starch. I mean, it's fermenting in your bowels, literally. You can argue with me. If you're a nutritionist, correct me. Look, so I didn't make and this basically came from my uncle, my father's brother, Keith. lives in Arizona, and I hadn't seen him in years and years and years. Went to visit, and he talked about what we were going to eat and what they were eating, what they weren't eating, how they changed their diet. And he said, we quit eating meat and potatoes together because we talked to a physician who basically proved to us that that's what happens. Now, do you become intoxicated necessarily? No, but you're fermenting if you eat the protein, especially, and it's below the digesting starch. You're basically, you can in that short amount of time start to you basically make an alcohol in your system. And so I thought about that, and I was like, wow, I never really thought about how those different foods interact. Then in speaking with you, it was the first time I thought about that in almost 20 years. I think my son was one, maybe he might have been 3. And so now you started speaking about eating one. You told me about your friend who ate one thing at a time, right? And I was a person who I always ate one thing at a time. The least attractive, least liked product, food stuff on my plate was eaten first, and my favorite was eaten last. And it's funny because I don't do that anymore. I should go back to trying that and see how that works. But taking it one more step in that she would wait until that fully digested before she ate the next food item is actually very interesting. So it's interesting in a couple respects for me, because you need certain nutrients in your body, right, to be able to absorb certain nutrients from other foods. So, for instance, zinc, or what's the big one? Calcium, right? So with calcium, you need zinc, or you need a cal zinc, right? Or you need some other item to be. It's chelation is what happens. Without those bonding, they're not really absorbed into the bloodstream. So with that, though, I mean, how did that evolve for you? Did you start following that regimen? Did you just research and go a step further?
Yeah, well, I kind of learned a bit from that, because when I started using some of these gluten-free grains, I was actually eating them with other things, as well as eating too much of them, not realizing the impact it would have on my blood sugar. It's like I remember working out one time, and I showed up with my trainer, and I said, man, I've made this porridge. And I said, this porridge is amazing. It's got like amaranth and millet and like all these like ancient grains. And I said, you wouldn't believe, man. I was like, this is the low fat, and it's got like these 30-some grams of protein, and it's got all these carbohydrates. And then I would find myself like 20 minutes into it on the floor, and I'm going, what's going on? But it was part of that, like, mixing some of those things and eating them at the same time, as well as the quantity of them and the timing of them, was like impacting my blood sugar. So that reinforced what my friend did. And that really helped me understand that, okay, portion size is important, pacing and separating some of what you eat. And then it got me hooked on, wow, I got to be careful of my blood sugar also. So low glycemic was a really important thing. And I know paleo calls for that, but it just really got me understanding that that's such a big part. And I know that the grains, like those gluten-free grains, do they digest differently than like wheat? Yeah,
so let's go into so Minostalgia, is one of our sponsors, and you can go to SpoonyWildRice.com. They have a big promotion going on. We'll give a quick plug for them. Basically, if you order their waffle sampler pack, you can take some of their side dishes, some of their breakfast cereals, and you can take their polentas, which are not really polenta, but it's a polenta substitute. It's really good. You can take those and actually turn them into waffles. You add some eggs, some milk. You can actually just add water if you want to, a little bit of baking soda in there. And basically, with a little bit of salt, pepper, sugar, whatever you want to add in there, savory or sweet, you end up with chicken. If you saw my show last week, actually, I went into the Doc's Morning Mojo, or Daily Mojo, and I actually made this chicken and waffles with the chicken in the waffle. It was fantastic. If you go to SpoonyWildRice.com and you order their waffle sampler pack, you'll receive 10% off the entire purchase of your entire purchase, even if you order more than that. It's fantastic. Here's the deal. So most of those grains are high protein, so they do digest very differently than say rice or wheat, which is primarily carbohydrate. So they digest slower.
Okay.
So things like this, so we'll just use wild rice as an example because I know it very well. It basically has all but one amino acid, which makes it a complete protein. So it digests just like a protein. Your body thinks, for all intents and purposes, it's a complete protein, right? It treats it that way, and it's very slow burning. The fact that most of these are also gluten-free is huge as well, because it doesn't cause the inflammation that gluten can cause in the bloods in the intestinal tract. So those three things alone make a big difference. Most people don't know, but inflammation is the only cause of illness. It's the only cause. Nothing. If a cell is not inflamed, there's nothing wrong. That's the only time you feel pain, the only time you feel distress, the only time that you feel discomfort, that you feel, like joint distress, that you have, it's swelling. It's swelling, inflammation of a cell. And so we're not going to be able to finish this conversation today, but basically we're going to work on getting your product that you've thought of and designed in the back of your brain for a long time. This is a long time coming. We'll finish up your story on the next segment. Actually, you know what? No. Do you want to carry over for a minute? We got about a 4-minute break coming up, if you don't mind hanging on. You want to carry over for a few minutes?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure, Patrick. Thanks.
Okay, we've got about a minute and a half left. It's fascinating how we are now understanding that gut health really leads to overall health, and not just physical health, but it leads to mental health, emotional health, and physical health. I mean, I can tell when I'm not eating right. I mean, I immediately tell that I'm not thinking right. Immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just I don't feel physically well, I don't perform physically well, I don't excel athletically, I don't think well. I don't just think slowly, I think poorly, right? It's not it's crazy, but I mean that's really how it goes for me, and I think we're going to see a lot of studies. So I'd really love to get you on when Dr. Ken starts in a couple of weeks. He's the one that developed the Atrantil product. He's got a great CBD product coming up, and so Dr. Ken will be on the show. His business partner Eric. They're fascinating because he's a gastroenterologist, and I would love to have you speak with him. I spoke to you about this before, but have you as a guest on his show. And start to relate some of this back to the health issues that you've had that may have been since birth, right? But okay, we're going to take a quick break. We have about 10 seconds. Hang on through the break, okay? It's 4 minutes. We'll see you on the other side. Spoony listeners, hang in there. Stay tuned. Interesting stuff. And don't forget, Wind Down Wednesday at the bottom of the hour. We'll be right back.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen is alleging that while in office, the president personally signed a check repaying him for hush money paid to a porn actress.
That allegation coming during intense questioning from Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings.
Donald Trump wrote you a check out of his personal account while he was serving as president of the United States of America to reimburse you for hush money payments to Ms. Clifford. Is that what you are telling the American people today?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Republican Jim Jordan noting that Cohen is about to serve a prison term for, among other things, lying to Congress.
Certainly it's the first time a convicted perjurer has been brought back to be a star witness in a hearing.
Jordan painting Cohen as a jilted former attorney angry over not getting a White House job.
Capitol Hill correspondent Wally Hines. Meanwhile, the president and North Korea's Kim Jong-un have concluded their first meeting of the Hanoi summit. They will meet again tomorrow. Also on townhall.com, after passing in the House, a bill to reverse the president's national emergency now sets up a showdown between Mr. President, Donald Trump, and one of his most vocal critics.
The resolution's next big hurdle comes in the Senate, where Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has been arguing against the president's declaration all week long.
There's no evidence of an emergency at the border.
President Trump says that's not what he's been hearing from border officials.
We do have an emergency.
Just look, he argues, at the porous nature of the southern border.
We have an emergency of people pouring into our country that we don't want. Criminals, smugglers.
Under the National Emergencies Act, the Senate is required to respond to Tuesday's House passage with a vote of its own within 18 days. Bob Agnew reporting.
European Union is urging India and Pakistan to exercise utmost restraint as tensions continue to mount between the two nuclear powers around the disputed region of Kashmir. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 56 points. More of these stories at townhall.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Have you done it? You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror?
I'm one of those people you don't want to see naked.
Yeah, most of us. But I mean, you look and you're going, what the?
I know.
How did I get to whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Hey there, it's Doc Thompson and Brad Staggs to tell you about a different way to shed those pounds. This is brand new tech. It's only been around for a couple of years or so. It was based on research from the University of California that said there's a molecule called OEA that's found naturally in your body. It produces it in the Mediterranean diet, that when taken in concentrated amounts, it will actually make you feel fuller and boost your metabolism.
I've lost about 10 pounds so far.
It's amazing.
It
Now,
really is cool.
A company said, we can take this to market and make this great product that'll help you. It's called RiduZone, RIDUZone.com, RIDUZone.com. It's Brad's worked. It's worked for Brad's, worked for me, countless other people. Go to RiduZone.com and try today. You're going to love it. RiduZone.com. Remember that, RIDUZone.com.
And we're back. Welcome back to Chef Patrick Mosher's show, the Food Biz Pro. I don't know. Sounds a little arrogant, Food Biz Pro, but I've been doing this a long time. I am the food business professional. You got some questions, needs, consulting. I specialize in opening restaurants, bringing products to market, and just overall increasing the quality of your food and beverage facility. How's that? All right, so we have a special guest still online with us. Are you there? Rich,
I am here, Patrick.
Sweet. All right. So we got a few minutes left, right? I got to get to something, not just, we're not going to cut it short. We just want to, let's get back into this and explain. So you had some real serious health issues that started as a young man. They continued into adulthood. You've dealt with a lot of things, misdiagnosed fibromyalgia, cancer, right? You've survived that. So now you start getting into this, the world's healthiest foods, realizing that paleo during eating paleo, you started bonking, hitting the wall, so to speak. You try to overcome that, finding the right food, and so now you come up with this idea. You found the ultimate superfood for human consumption from a complex carb standpoint, which we will not mention. It is the ingredient to be named later once we have a sponsor paying for the production of this product and bringing it to market. So now what did you do next? I mean, so you had an idea, you had the product. Where did you go from there? Because this is not an easy process. I'm telling you, from just trying to create a new menu item for a chef is painstakingly. Sometimes you get it right the first time. Typically, it's at least 4 or 5 times. Sometimes it takes years to develop a product. So what happened with you, and where did you start, and where are we at now?
So really, I'd say I started with just trying to make food for myself and my family using some of these, key ingredients, and really it taking several years to find different combinations until finally it was, pleasing to the palate for even somebody who doesn't like the gluten-free, low-glycemic stuff. So I started just messing with that and really using my own family, my own children. Children are great as guinea pigs, just to figure out, okay, is this working, guys? And I tell you, that really helped. So as soon as I settled on this, it hit me. I thought, man, I love the energy meal supplement bar type of thing. I had a go-to couple of bars that I would do. And I thought, man, this would be great to put these kind of ingredients, these kind of combinations in a meal supplement bar. And that next question was, has anybody ever done it? And so I was just like, I was just prepared to be deflated by just going out there as we do, Googling it, looking out on different websites. And I stumbled across somebody who had something similar, but not quite the same combination of ingredients. And I started studying what they did and started looking at what they did, not necessarily from the ingredient standpoint just as much as why did it not work, because their particular product never really took off. So I really started looking at that as, okay, this is a potential case study for me to learn from and to figure out what do I want to avoid from pitfalls and how can I learn this. So at this point, we've got a combination of ingredients. We don't have a kind of a proof of concept, right? So nothing in its form, but knowing that these ingredients can work, figuring out how they're going to work in a meal, nutrition, supplement type of bar, and then going through some of those questions that I know you propose when you're starting this whole process. But when I saw this out there, man, I learned so much about their price point was too high. The ingredients did not need to be all organic. The marketing itself was lacking. It wasn't sexy marketing. It wasn't a sexy name. It wasn't like exciting, and it didn't kind of capture maybe the demographic. And then also too, manufacturing, like as I started to look all these things with the ingredients driving up the price, the marketing, the manufacturing, all that stuff, I started thinking, wow, I could possibly better this, and I might be able to do something with it, which is when I met you at Doc's Celebration of Life, and you heard in between tears that Doc had inspired me to, building a business and his segments on that, and then talking about bringing you on in nutrition. You know what? I'm going to do this. And I met you, and I said, let's do it.
Well, and so this is always a really fun thing for me, right? To try to bring a new product to market. It's one of the most difficult things to do and be successful. But when done right, you see it all the time. Look at all the brands on the shelves. Smuckers, right? Smuckers, it's a family name. They had a great jam, and they developed a Smuckers line of products. Duncan Hines, right? Duncan Hines, he was actually a restaurateur. I mean, not a restaurant. He was a sales guy. Duncan Hines drove across the country, and he would put his stamp of approval on restaurants, and they would this little thing in the window, kind of like now you see what are all the food designated awards that people get. They would get a
Michelin.
You get Michelin, but there's other ones that are just in the U.S. So and they get they're also I'm not going to go into the names, but there's a lot of them. Okay. A few that are really recognized. But then they'd put his sign in the window, approved by Duncan Hines, and eventually, I think he found the best of the best cake mixes, so on and so forth, and he came up with this line of products to put on the shelf. There's always a cool backstory, right?
Yeah.
Almost always, not always. Sometimes just somebody gets lucky. I mean, well, look at Famous Amos cookies, right? Anyway, there're just so many products. Orville Redenbacher popcorn. But here's the deal. I think that there's a strong demand looking at how large that market is in general, right? The meal replacement bar, nutritional bar market is huge, right? It's growing. We're busy people. We want to, in between meals, have this really healthful snack that we can just open, pop in our mouths, eat, be done. We feel like we've done something nutritious for ourselves. Whether that's true or not, that's perception. But I think there's a need for some really truly nutritious products out there. There are a few. I mentioned two that I know about that I really like, right? The RX bar and Larabar. I think Larabar does a great job of producing a product which is very whole and very much intact nutritionally. Now, here's the issue, right? We do every product coming to market faces two big issues. One is money. There's always the money factor. Right. And then, being able to target a market again, this comes down to money a lot of times, not always, but being able to target a market in a way that you can have a big enough impact, capture enough of the market share that you get legs and you move forward. Now, there are ways around this. One is to go to, we'll talk about the basic consulting model, construct I'd go through with a client, the conversation we'd have. So the first is you can start to develop a local following, right? I mean, how many different recipes have you played around with this?
In the infancy, just a couple of different combinations. So not a whole lot.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one thing to look at. Have you ever heard of pemmican? So
that sounds familiar.
So pemmican was basically it's a fat protein, and sometimes it'd have like dried cherries or another fruit aspect to it. But so it comes from two different. I think it comes from the Cree word pemmican, right? And pemi meaning fat or grease, and the Lakota word is wasna. It means anything else, anything ground up, right? Or sna, meaning ground up. And so what they did is they take ground buffalo meat, bison meat, and fat, and they would mix it together. And what's cool is this now becomes a product that is shelf stable, and they could travel with. So when they for these tribes that were they were nomads basically to some extent, regional nomads in most places, in most cases, they would use pemmican, and it was a high energy, very calorically dense, easy to carry, easy to portion, easy to manage, food source. And they would, during the fur trade years and later in Arctic and Antarctic explorers, actually, even North American and European explorers use this. So pemmican is kind of a good way to look at this, right? Look at all the pemmican recipes you could find, and look at how are they bound? How do they bind this product together? Because this binding process is going to be the key. It's going to be the key to packaging, extrusion. It's going to be the key to whether or not you can get a fully mixed product that stays mixed the way it's supposed to be. Don't worry so much about the fat. Just look at the flavor profiles, right? So secondly, once we'll talk through the product development portion off air, because I don't want to, of course, we have to talk about the secret ingredient, which we don't want people to know about yet. Once you get to that point that we start talking about this product, how do you bring that product to market locally at, say, the farmers markets? Is there a local store that once you get approved and you prove it's shelf stable, will they carry this as a specialty local product? Maybe there's a green co-op somewhere, right? A farm, like a organic grocer or something like that. Now, I know in upstate New York there's several. In Saratoga Springs there's one. I've spoken to my sister a couple of weeks ago on air about that, and we'll probably, I'm going to have her on the air next week, actually, with her husband. And so we can talk through this process, but the easiest thing to do is have a self-sustainable product, so that the product that you're making sustains itself from a R&D standpoint and from a growth standpoint. Borrowing money is great. And I had somebody remind me, I said this on using OPM, other people's money, to launch a business is a smart business concept. However, but the thing is, you become beholden to those people, right? Now, borrowing money from people to do it is great, as long as there are no strings attached and they don't want to direct the business. But if you can do it yourself, you set aside, think about how much money you could use to launch this, set that aside, and just we can talk about a budget, things like that. Again, we're doing this as a case study. This is really fun for me. There's no charge for my fees until you start making money. We'll talk about that later. But maybe a lot of times I'll take a percentage of business, and that's only of net sales. And if you never make any money, then I don't make any money either. It's just it gives me more incentive to get something done. So let's look at let's work on the product, then we work on finance. How do we monetize that product locally, cheaply, and as quickly as possible? And then how do we take the money, the profits from that, to expand the brand? Once you get a solid product, then you go to a co-packager. You say, okay, co-packer, co-packager, third-party producer, how much is it going to cost me to get my first trial run of these and a gold standard recipe converted into a production recipe? That's where we go. Typically, it can be as little as 10 or 20,000. It can be as high as 100,000. With something like this, if the product's dialed in, it's already shelf stable. We do the bacterial testing, send it off to the Mickelson Labs or somewhere else to get that done, and have nutritional labeling already done by the barcodes. Then at that point, it's just a matter of finding the right producer to do it on a small scale. And maybe we find somebody we could help develop their product in tandem with it. So we start developing a product line instead of a single product. So now you go to market with 2 or 3 products instead of 1. So those are the steps I would follow.
Cool.
If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Okay,
exciting.
So you're gonna have to go back and listen to that. I spoke really fast and spit a lot of words out there really quickly So here's the deal. Trey Chapman just sent me the James Beard Foundation just gave out its list of nominees for the year, and I want to get this out there before. Look, a lot of people want to do a weekly podcast instead of a daily live show. I may be the first, at least in this region, to express it on the air and get the names out there. I want to look through the list real quick, see if any of my friends are on there, and then we'll get to Wind Down Wednesday at the bottom of the hour. But look, you have a great story. It's very inspirational. I think the product has legs. I wouldn't be talking to you if it didn't. And Rich, I can't express to you enough how what an honor it was to meet you at Doc's Celebration of Life with the rest of the Jackhole Nation and just all the listeners in general and his wonderful family. What an amazing family. Love to Cyclops. You know who you are, and that Doc's sister has a glass eye, so he used to call her Cyclops. Or I actually asked if she was the one with the wonky eye when I first met her. She and her husband are wonderful, and what a great family. We do him an honor by continuing his Building America segment and making something happen, and just making this paying homage to him. That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Hey, so let's talk off there. We'll see if we'll get you back on next week or how long it's going to take for us to get through the next phase. I'll start playing around with the recipes a little bit here as well, and kind of see. We'll both go 2 different directions and kind of reconverge on the other side of that recipe testing. But in the meantime, we'll touch base. Let's touch base either tonight or tomorrow. And I really look forward to having you back on the air, Frank. Rich. It's almost gave away your last name there. But this is going to be a lot of fun. I really think you have a winner. So thanks for sharing it with me.
Thanks, Patrick.
All right. Hey, I'll give you a shout later. I'm going to let you go now. So, all right, folks, real quick before we get to wine, because once I hit the wine, we're probably done. I'm done. Done for the day, more than likely. As you know, the amazing Trey Chapman, who on Friday afternoon or Friday mornings here, 10 Central, that's our local time here, and 11 o'clock Eastern, has the amazing Trey's Chowdown Live. He's got two shows. Actually, got 3 web pages. There's Trey's Chowdown, Trey's Drink with Trey, and Trey's Chowdown Live. Trey Chapman's family is longtime ranchers in this area. 180, 200 years, a long time. They've been in the food service business over 105 years. Actually, almost 110 years, I think. In 1905, they opened their first restaurants. And Trey himself is just a genuinely authentic human being with a big heart and a big hat. So, Trey, thank you very much. Anyway, so I'm going to look through. I don't know everyone in here, but the new nominees for this is the James Beard Restaurant and Chef 2019 James Beard Awards Restaurant and Chef semifinalists. So these are the semifinalists, right? There are a lot of men here, and I'm going to just go through a couple here. Actually, let's see how long this list is. That's not, all right, it's not too long. I can probably get through it all. I'm going to have to hurry. So we're going to go. All right, we have Best New Restaurant, Ada Indian Canteen in New York City, Andiario, Westchester, Pennsylvania, Angler in San Francisco, Atomics in New York City. Let's see, it's Bardea Food and Drink in Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington, I love Wilmington, man. Good friend of mine used to have a restaurant there. Man, you know what, he was a freaking phenomenal chef up in Aspen. Dude, why did you go off and get a property management? I know the money's better and you get to travel the world, luxury property management, stuff like that, but come on, you could have been cooking. Dude, all right. I'll leave you alone. All right, we've got Bavel in Los Angeles, Bywater, American Bistro in New Orleans. Again, these are the best new restaurant nominees in the semifinals for the James Beard 2019. These are best new restaurant and chef, or best restaurant and chef. You've got Bywater American Bistro in New Orleans. Oh, I'd love to be in New Orleans right now for a little bit of fun food and lots of drinking, I'm sure, during Mardi Gras. We have Kennard in Portland, Oregon. That's duck for the rest of us. That's funny. Kennard, the Oregon Ducks. Ha! Celeste, Somerville, Mass. Chickadee in Boston. I don't know if that's L or LA in Washington, D.C. The Elysian Bar in New Orleans. Man, I've heard some great things about that place. Folk in Nashville. Frenchette in New York City. Another restaurant I've heard many good things about. Kyoten in Chicago. Japanese, by the way. Larder, Delicatessen and Bakery in Cleveland. Lineage in Wailea, Hawaii. Major Domo in L.A. Major Domo, man, that place is going to be kicking ass. We all know who that guy is. We got Marrow in Detroit. Nyumbai in Oakland, California. Passe Roto in Chicago. I wonder who's doing that. I wonder if that's part of a group. Curious. Petra and the Beast in Dallas. Oh, Petra. I'm going to Petra next week. I'm going to get the chef on the air and go to Petra next week. Popol Vuh, Minneapolis. Q House in Denver. Ooh, Denver, one of my all-time favorite cities. I know Q House, have not been there. But I have to tell you, Stoic and Genuine at the train station, freaking phenomenal. All right, I got 5 minutes left. We have Sawyer in Seattle. Spoken English in Washington, D.C. Have not been there, know the restaurant. The Stanley in Charlotte, North Carolina. Suerte in Austin. Got to hit that one up, maybe in the very near future. The Surf Club Restaurant in Surfside, Florida. Vianda, San Juan, Puerto Rico. All right, Outstanding Baker. Let's see. Do I know anybody in that category? I don't know. There's a lot more to read. Look, bakers, I love you. I'll give you some loving tomorrow, okay? Outstanding Bar Program. Oh, Anvil Bar and Refuge. I love Anvil. Houston. Go Houston. The Atomic Lounge, Birmingham, Alabama. The Baldwin Bar, Woburn, Mass. We have Bar Agricole in San Francisco. Bryant's Cocktail Lounge in Milwaukee. Clavel. Mescaleria. Mescaleria in Baltimore. Ooh, I love mezcal. Columbia Room in Washington, D.C. Dead Rabbit, New York City, one of my favorite restaurants. He's the guy that does the little smoked watermelon. We have Expatriate, Portland, Oregon. Kimball House in Decatur, Georgia. La Factoria in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Leanda, Brooklyn, New York. Hey, all those Puerto Rican places. Chef Mark, you're going to be there on the 14th to the 17th of March. You need to be hitting these places up. I'm telling you, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You need to go. They have Leanda in Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, man, what a hotbed of great restaurants right now. Lost Lake in Chicago. The Monarch Bar in Kansas City, Missouri. Monk's Cafe in Philly. No Anchor in Seattle. Old Lighting, Marina Del Rey in California. You have Planter's House in St. Louis. St. Leo, Oxford, Missouri. Or Mississippi, sorry. Oxford, Missouri. Wrong state. Ticonderoga Club in Atlanta. You know, there's Fort Ticonderoga in New York. So every time I see Ticonderoga, I think it's in New York, but it's in Atlanta. Outstanding Chef. We got to go through Outstanding Chef. All right. We have Ashley Christensen in Pools down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Renee Erickson, Bateau in Seattle. Colby Geraltz in Blue Stem in Kansas City, Missouri. Sarah Gruneberg, Monteverde, Chicago. Shiro Kashiba in Seattle. It's so funny I can say the Japanese stuff without worrying about it. The English sucks. David Kinch, Manresa in Los Gatos, California. Christopher Costo, I think, actually. The restaurant at Meadowwood in St. Helena, California. Corey Lee from Benu in San Francisco, another great restaurant. Donald Link, Herb St. New Orleans. Okay, look, Donald Link, you better kick some ass down there because our boy that got kicked out by the Me Too movement, I'm telling you what, he was one of the best chefs I've ever eaten with. I'm telling you. God bless you. I'm sorry you're gone. I hope you make your way back. Margot McCormick, Margot Cafe and Bar in Nashville. By the way, I want to say Herb Saint. That has to do with Susan Spicer, by the way. I know originally that was all one of the Susan Spicer, startups. Oh, Tori Miller, L'Etoile, Madison, Wisconsin. We have Marisol, Priscilla, Kucharamama in Hoboken, New Jersey. That sounds good. Missy Robbins, Lilia, Brooklyn, New York. Another great restaurant. We have Chrissa Robertson from Rancho Pino in Scottsdale, Arizona. Hey, Justin File Sticker, you better be listening. I need to hear about Rancho Pino, please. You need to give me a call. Gabriel Rucker. Oh, by the way, Justin's a badass chef in Phoenix, Arizona. Just saying. Justin File Sticker, look him up. And so you got Gabriel Rucker, Le Pigeon in Portland, Oregon. Oh, one of my all-time favorites, Chris Shepard of Georgia, James in Houston. Chris Shepard is such a badass. If you go to Houston, any restaurant that Chris Shepard puts his fingers on, touches, walks into is automatically a hit. I'm just telling you, that guy spends every minute of every day living, breathing, eating food, studying other food cultures, going to every other influential restaurateur, not just in the city of Houston, but around the country. Amazing chef. You have Anna Sorton of Oleana in Cambridge, Massachusetts, another great restaurant. Vikram Sundaram, Rasika, Washington, D.C., another chef to watch. You have Fabio Trabioca, Fiola, Washington, D.C., Mark Vetri of Vetri Cucina in Philly. Tom, I need Tom, sales guy Tom, our partner, business partner. Tom, if you're listening, I know you're in D.C. right now or on a train to D.C. I need you to get your family to go to Vetri Cucina. Check out Mark Vetri because we're gonna give our own version of what the top 10 or the winners should be. All right, we have outstanding pastry chefs, best bakers, outstanding restaurateurs, so on and so forth. We'll get to that hopefully at the end of this next hour, this coming hour, the other half hour. Outstanding wine program. We still haven't gotten to. Man, Wine and Spirits. Oh, Wine Spirits producer. Rising Chef of the Year. Oh, we need Rising Star Chef of the Year. That's what we're going to do. Best Chef Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic. Okay, we'll get back to some of this because I want to see if our buddy Matt McClure up in Bentonville, Arkansas is once again on the list or if he didn't make it this year because I'll tell you what, if you get up in Bentonville, anywhere in the Northwest Arkansas region, go into the 21C Hotel, ask for anything on the menu. I don't care if you eat in the bistro, the bar area, or going to the restaurant. It is unbelievable. Anyway, all right, I got a good friend of mine coming up on the phone here for Wind Down Wednesday. You better join us on the other side of this break. It's only 2 minutes. You can do a lot in 2 minutes. Get up, do it, come back. This is Chef Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro. We are in day 2 of a full live 2-hour broadcast. Thank God you missed the first half of yesterday because I wasn't even sitting here. Thank God Ron kicked my ass, got me back in the chair. All right. We'll see you back in 2 minutes. Ciao for now.
Have you done it?
Never Forgotten Apparel is more than just a premium women's and men's clothing line. It's a movement to remind us to wear American-made and serve those who serve us, our heroes. Never Forgotten Apparel gives 20% of their total sales to nonprofits that support homeless veterans and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com, use promo code DOC, and get 15% off your purchase. That's neverforgottenapparel.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-452-1075. 800-452-1075. That's 800-452-1075.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
And we're back, folks. So, man, that was a long and fast list of names for actually, was it Chef of the Year, was it? Or Rising Chef? Rising Star Chefs. All right, so, no, actually it was way back up here. It was Best new restaurateur? No. Best new restaurant? No. It was outstanding chef of the year. Okay, so here's the cool thing. My buddy Matt McClure, I wouldn't say we're buddies. All right, Chef Matt McClure, he is in the running again this year. I believe this would be his third nomination. I know it's at least his second. And he is, again, at the 21C Hotel. And he is, man, the guy's just a badass. I'm just telling you. So he's going to be in the South. Matt McClure of The Hive in Bentonville, Arkansas. Telling you, what a great, great chef. If you get the chance to go there, I think I had was it like a milk poached veal chop one time? Oh my God. The most tender cut of beef or of meat, any kind of meat I've ever had. It was phenomenal. So we will have a caller. My friend Laura Geen will be calling in here in a few minutes. She and her lovely husband run a wonderful place called Ramo, formerly Ramo de Olivo. But Ramo is a wine bar in Bentonville, Arkansas. They were some of the first friends I made up there. A wonderful couple who took good care of me, introduced me around town. Back when we were launching Blue Fresh Fish Marketplace with Barry Furiseth and the team there, which also has the Fresh Fish Market and restaurant, Blue the restaurant. I'm telling you, if you need anything, you need to know anything about seafood, that is the guy to call. You let me know, I will get you in contact. And I'm getting a signal that she's on the phone there, so I'm going to do I've already done the intro. Laura's on the line. Laura, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you?
I'm good. We've been around. Okay, not around the world, around the country, in similar places at similar times, and we finally had the opportunity to become good friends up in Bentonville. And I know your man is off running around making money, doing taxes. It's that time of year.
Yep.
Yes. God bless him. That man can work like. Well, few other I've seen. You're one of them. I'm one of those crazy, stupid people who just likes to work too much. I used to open every new meeting when I walked into a restaurant. I'd open up by standing up and saying every manager meeting, "Hello, my name is Patrick, and I'm a workaholic." And it was funny because nobody laughed. They're like, "Dude, so are we? What do you think we're here?" It was interesting. But Laura, now you were not you were in the hottest wine bar in town, right? I have to say you.
Well, I hope so. Yes.
Well, no, I'm serious. You were
Ramo
the first one.
is a favorite. Yes.
And do you still have the olive oils and vinegars?
We do. So in the last year, we expanded a little bit, and we opened up our own wine retail shop as well. So we have an olive oil, balsamic area, and retail wine, and, of course, our wine bar.
So is the retail wine, is that on the side where you were going to do the deli? On the other, is that the other, or did you?
Yes. Yes, we closed down our deli a year ago, November. And we opened up the wine shop a year ago, January. And the back part of what was our deli is now an event space, and we have live music. Lately, during the winter, we've been doing karaoke Saturdays, which has become phenomenally busy. People just love it. It's just a little bit of a free-for-all karaoke. And surprise, people like it.
Well, no, that's great. I mean, I don't find it as much of a surprise. There's not much up there in that area. If you're a karaoke lover, especially right there in town, and who wants to travel across town to wherever, and get their karaoke on, right? I know there's a couple places out by the lake. I was in one. It's this great little hole in the wall dive bar that has actually a huge karaoke floor.
Right.
But I'm not really surprised. And, you said, well, we closed our wine. Look, you closed the deli, but you're making, look, your margin on the wine is better anyway.
Well, and truthfully, Patrick, we didn't really want to be a restaurant. So we truly are what we are. So we wanted to be the best wine bar in town, and we believe that we are. And wine retail goes right along with what we're doing. And we don't have to compete with the great restaurants in town. We are what we are, and we love people to come in and just have our little small meat and cheese plates and sip on wine or some of the great craft beers that we have around town. We have all local craft beers on tap, and that also brings in quite a few people.
Now, is Oven and Tap still open next door?
Oven and Tap is. So we have, and we love working with Oven and Tap. We share a wall, basically. We have the garden space, and they have the pizza. So especially in the spring when our garden is full, we encourage people to order a pizza next door and stay and drink our wine and enjoy our music. So
what's that? You get a line, I'll get a pole, honey. Isn't that how it goes? You bring the wine, I'll bring the pizza, honey. Yeah, so
exactly.
And I'm assuming Luke is still the chef there, Luke Wetzel.
Yes, he is.
Okay,
owner and chef.
Yeah, so it would be silly of me not to. But you never know. I haven't been there in a year. I was there, I think October last year was the last time I was there. Or no, it was before that. Jeez, it was like spring. I was up there with Doc. But
yeah.
So we've you were one of the first friends I made in town. I remember Barry, when I first came to town, we were going to do a caviar tasting, a paddlefish caviar tasting, or lumpfish rather. No, paddlefish. And
I think it was paddlefish.
Yep. And we were bringing that over to do a tasting. I met you. You weren't married at that time, but you've been together for a long time, and I was fortunate enough to meet you both. And it was just really good friendship. You're from New York. We both lived in California, and it was just a good friendship that came about that. And you two were kind enough to take me under your wing and introduce me to so many wonderful people in Arkansas. And then of course Barry solidified that as well. Barry and I were the kings of half-baked ideas. Right. And the kings, the kings of business scheming up there. We tried a lot of things and got a lot of traction. I know he's working on a new space downtown, but.
Oh, it's going to be amazing too.
That's what I've heard. He's doing a great job. So that aside, though, you started this thing a couple of years ago called Wine Down Wednesday, right? And I believe that was in like 2015, 2015 you started. And
yeah.
And on Wednesdays, so what makes Wine Down Wednesday special?
Well, Wine Down Wednesday is kind of like it's everyone's middle of the week for the most part. And I initially started it because I was a teacher here in Bentonville for 13 years, and all my teacher friends wanted a place to go on Wednesdays where they can just go, we're almost through the week. So I created Wine Down Wednesday to encourage them to come to our wine bar. And we have almost 50 varietals by the glass, and we offer $1 off on every glass of wine on Wednesdays. Originally, we did some local music. Now that's kind of not as we just don't do it as often. We do it every so often, but because we are the draw. The music's not the draw anymore. So actually the wine bar is the draw. And, sometimes we'll get a local artist, sometimes not, but we are the draw. So people just come. It's a gathering place. The teachers still like to come. So we just wanted to give them kind of like a happy hour atmosphere on Wednesdays, and it goes all day and all night, which is great.
Yes, and it's a great space. You walk in, depending which side you walk in on, you may walk into the olive oil slash vinegar side of the business, and then through the hallway into the larger room there. We have a big long bar. Your bar seats about 8 maybe. 8 or 10, and then you have 5 or 6 tables inside and to 1 or 2 high tops, and then you have that beautiful patio, the garden area, which is fantastic. You've built those nice little decks up and elevated those so that you're sitting up a little higher. It's a beautiful venue. If you ever get the chance to go up there, again, there are a few things that you need to see. Crystal Bridges, Museum of American Art, the 21C Hotel. Walk down through the trails at the Slaughter Pen. In the cycling area, and then Rama Wine Bar. It's actually it was my favorite spot in town, and always really nice, great people there. There's no one who's unhappy that's sitting there, because if you're unhappy and you're there, you're going to feel uncomfortable because everybody else is laughing, enjoying themselves, and just not just drinking wonderful wine, but learning about wine. Now I know you have one of your distributors or a winemaker's coming in at 3. Is that correct?
I do. I don't know. One of my distributors is bringing a wine maker. I don't even know which one. That kind of surprised me. So that is part of what I do, which is kind of fun. I had one yesterday, as a matter of fact. They are just like, hey, I got somebody with me. And so, yes, that's that's the hard part of my job is I have to actually drink wine and taste wine. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun, but there's just so many wines in the world. There's so many to try and so many to taste, and you only have so many days of the week.
I know.
So you have to do it every day.
So many wines and so little time. I know it's terrible. It's
right.
a terrible job. Someone's got to do it. So real quick, we had talked about you have a couple of new special wines that you brought in, a good line of wines, and I was not familiar with that. So do you want to tell us what your newest and favorite line of wines are?
Sure. So I just brought in a delicious wine from Heidi Barrett, and she is a winemaker out of Napa. And the winery is La Serena, and she's pretty much a rock star, a Napa winemaker. And the wine that I am carrying right now is her Le Beritage. So it's a homage to a Hermitage, which is a French wine, of course. And most of her wines are blends, except that she has a really outstanding cab. And right now I'm just having the Le Beritage in the shop, but we will be adding the wine slowly as people discover them. But she happened to be here in Arkansas visiting, and we were able to go into a great wine tasting with her. And their winery is located in Calistoga, California, which is outstanding. If you ever get to Napa,
that's on the north end. That's on the north end of Napa, right? Calistoga.
It is, and they're producing some amazing wines up there. Just really beautiful.
Yeah, because I know. So Greystone is up that way. The Culinary Institute of America's continuing education campus. And I didn't mean to overtalk you there for a second, but are you actually enjoying a glass right now, at least?
Am I enjoying? I'm sorry.
Are you enjoying a glass of wine?
We're enjoying it. Oh, of course. Of course I am. But it's a little early.
I know you could lie. You could lie and still say yes. It's okay. No one will know. No one will care.
Yes. Yes, we are always tasting wine.
I'm drinking a glass of wine. It is not anything from Heidi Barrett and La Serena. By the way, the Siren. Phenomenal winery. And when I said I'm unfamiliar, I was unfamiliar with the wines you have. I do know she is a rock star out there. She's been around for a little while. But I'm actually drinking just some Mondavi Private Selection Cabernet Sauv from it's 2016. But it's a really good drinking wine. It goes with pretty much anything. And it's what I had. And I can't talk to you and not have wine. So just the way it goes. Sorry. Although I usually drink beer there. What was I thinking? I almost always drank the Caveman IPA.
Well, we have the great beers here, but I do recall that you like to drink a couple of our unoaked or stainless Chards when you were here sometimes as well.
I'm not a big fan of the oak Chardonnays, and I like big Zins. I like big cabs. So anytime you had something new, I'd try it. There was something. Right. There was a red that you had on there that I drank all the time. Black Label. Was
it the Black Stallion?
That's the one. Yep. Mm-hmm. That was a good one.
The Black Stallion cab is a great cab from Napa. Mm-hmm. And we do really well with Black Stallion. That's one of our top sellers on our wine list right now. And that's one of the reasons why we do Wine Down Wednesdays. If a wine is a little expensive, you can try something that $1 off or $2 off on Wednesdays and not feel like you're broke the bank.
Well,
you can try something new.
You do a lot of cool things. Or when you have vintners in, or you winemakers, or even reps, sometimes they'll do a little flight. You'll do a flight of wines that they distribute or that they manufacture, and it's always fun. I've never been in there where there's not something going on. Now there are a couple times we came in there like right after farmers market on Sunday when you weren't open, and we just hang out and talk and chill, and it gave me a chance to just kind of recongeal our friendship with you and your I can't say better half, your other half. Such well, look, Tom, so I don't like to say names on the air. If somebody doesn't say it first, then I just don't say the names. But Tom is he is probably. It's funny because we did not spend like a ton of time together. He was the closest friend I had though in Bentonville. Such a good guy, such a supportive man, and huge heart of gold. Man, that guy would work his butt off all day in the shop. When you were building, and you guys built that whole thing out yourselves. Then he'd go do his work as a CPA, and then come back and just say, "Hey, anything you need, you tell me, I'll be there." There are very few characters out there like that.
he's a jack of all trades, put it that way. He definitely has a good heart, and he's the backbone. I do the operation, and he's our backbone. I run it all. But since you've been here, we've added another event. We always, like you said, we're always trying to do something here. We're making it fun for people to come. But Thursday afternoons, we are starting to have we started a wine tasting in our wine shop.
Awesome.
So it's usually either a wine maker or distributor doing the tasting, or it will be me. And we pull either a wine that we're featuring. It could be something new. It could be something that we've had for a while and people just haven't discovered it yet. This week we will be tasting some wine from Carminet Winery and Niner Winery. But Niner is out of Paso Robles, and Carminet is, I believe, Napa. So we're having that wine distributor come, and we just try to do something different every week. March is Women's History Month, so we're going to be focusing on female winemakers. So we'll have some really great wines by females that will be fun to stop in and check out as well. We do it every Thursday from 5 to 6:30.
That's fantastic. I'm really, really excited. I mean, you guys have longevity is something that is not always the case in a little town like that with so much competition. You know, for such a time. I mean, what's the population of Bentonville right now? I know Rogers around 50,000, maybe 60. Yeah.
Ours is probably close to 40, I would guess. Okay. 40,000.
So we'll say
you know, there's always new people moving here.
Yeah, well, you know, Walmart and Sam's, they're headquartered there, and every company that really distributes any volume has to have an office there, which means you have to have people that live there to man the office. So you're looking at probably 100,000 people in that area. That is not a big city by any means, but I mean, between Rogers, and maybe even less than that, by the time you put Rogers and Bentonville together, it's phenomenal, though, the quality of restaurants and the quality of just entertainment in general there. It's like Mayberry meets, I don't know, Manhattan, all rolled up into one. It's very cool. It's a very hip place to live. And I'll tell you, I do miss it. It was the easiest place I ever moved to. I mean, you just walk in and you're welcome. Everybody's like, hey, how you doing? What's your name? What do you do here? Are you live here? Are you just working here? Do you do something for Walmart? Everybody was just friendly as can be. It was an awesome place to be. But I asked you to do a few things for me. Actually, to do one thing, and you know, not everybody is comfortable drinking wine. You know, wine, it's not so much now, but there was a period for about 6-7 years where if you weren't a wine snob, you know, you really were not discouraged, but you might have felt left out when you were drinking wine. Because you didn't, oh, what a beautiful bouquet, and oh, look at the legs, nice legs. I can't wait to drink her. Okay, so let's talk about some of those terms that may be intimidating to the average wine drinker, the person who is not versed well in wine. So do you have a top 10, a top 5? You want to give me the rundown and see if I understand what they are, or if you stump me on some of them. I don't necessarily. You don't need to ask me what they are, but we can just kind of go through them and discuss the finer points of wine, so to speak.
Sure, and one of the things that we like to do here is we like to educate people about wine. That's kind of our goal, because it can be intimidating, like you said, and you know, sommeliers, they don't like to use certain words that, you know, the regular person on the street would use. And one of the ones that I like to use is jammy. And if you were a winemaker and a sommelier, you'd probably cringe at that word. What does that mean, jammy? You know, what does it mean? And I feel like it's an easy term for people to understand, because people like to say, well, I like a sweet wine, or I like a dry wine. Well, what does that mean on your palate? So, you know, you try to come up with words that are, you know, a layman's terms. So I would say jammy is more of a fruitful word. You know, you can taste the fruit that you're drinking in the wine, and that is something that people would like. Rather than calling it sweet, we call it jammy.
So when
another one is dry.
When I think of jammy, so I think of like a big Cabernet or maybe even a Zin that has, you know, somewhere in the front you taste the fruit, but then it's not cloying, but it lingers a minute, like blackberry or raspberry. You know, that kind of. Mostly blackberry, though, that it sticks in your mouth just for a second. It's not like drinking a sweet fortified wine, right, where it's just sweet. It has kind of a little bit of a lingering effect to it. And it's like jam. It's like when you take a little taste of blackberry jam, and then it kind of slowly fades away and goes into the rest of the body of the wine. And you're right. So jammy. That's funny that I didn't know that sommeliers didn't like that word. I had no idea.
Right. Well, they just, because they might use a word like pencil shavings. I've heard that one a lot, but people who really talk about wine talk about pencil shavings. Well, how many people know what pencil shavings taste like? So, when you're describing pencil shavings, that's a tough one.
I was a dumb kid in school.
Right?
I might actually know what pencil shavings taste like. Sorry.
Okay, so you put it in your mouth. So there are some wines that have that chalky, pencil shaving, kind of a musty taste to them. So that's kind of what they're talking about, more of a musty taste.
Gotcha.
Another one that people talk about a lot is like herbaceous, for instance. What would that mean to you, herbaceous?
Oh, dude, man, just herbaceous. Give me some ganja, man. Herbaceous. So herbaceous to me is kind of, when you start to get a hint of like grassy notes, not wet dog so much as grass clippings, right? Or, herbs, right. When you crush herbs between your finger. To me, that's on the nose, though. That's not really something you taste so much as smell. It's more of a aroma, I would believe, but it also has like that unripe taste also. Absolutely.
So something that maybe is a little green, would be herbaceous. I think of herbaceous more when I think of like a Sauvignon Blanc, for instance, a white wine.
That makes sense.
Kind of a crisper wine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or like
think of that.
Like the Portuguese, what are they? Vino, what do they call it? The Portuguese wines? Like Vino Verde, those kind of wines?
Right. They can be a little bit more herbaceous.
Okay.
And then another word that's tricky for a lot of people is oaky. What does that mean, oaky?
Well, so when it's when you're talking about, for me, for a Chardonnay, I mean, it's when it's got that buttery feel to it, but that doesn't necessarily translate the same to a red wine. But for me, that's the malolactic fermentation that gives it that buttery mouthfeel, as opposed to the steel aged stuff that we talked about. But I mean, what does oaky mean when it's not? For Chardonnay, was I right on that, or is it different?
Yeah. So no, oaked is so it's definitely been in a barrel. So if it's oaky, it's been aged in a barrel. And so a lot of times you'll get, they'll refer to oaky, you'll get kind of a vanilla taste, some baking spices, and it'll have like a buttery, almost oaky taste. And that's very traditional for Chardonnays, you're correct. A lot of people like those traditional Chardonnays. But what really is a trend now is a stainless or unoaked Chardonnay. So they don't have that woody aroma or woody flavor or that butteriness. They're more crisp, and they have less of the acidic taste to it and less of that vanilla, and they're a little more crisp and more citrus. So I think that's more of a trend. You'll see a lot of Napa. Wente, for instance, has a beautiful wine called Morning Fog that we serve here. It's a Chardonnay, and it is unoaked. It's stainless, and it really is a favorite. People are starting to really love that wine, especially in the summer.
Yeah, I like the unoaked Chardonnay. So for me, it's just a little crisper. It doesn't taste as rich, and I think they're more like a picnic wine to me. It's more versatile that way. But that's just personal opinion.
Exactly.
All right. So what's the next term? What do you got for me? What else has legs?
How about legs? Legs is interesting. What does that mean? What do legs mean? What do you think?
Well, so when you swirl your glass of wine, right? There's these streamers that run down the side of the glass. Sometimes they go slow. Sometimes they're fast. Sometimes they're wide and narrow, and a lot of that has to do with the alcohol versus sugar content. To me, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, you can explain more, though. I'm sure you.
But that's basically what it is. I mean, really, that's you nailed it. It's just basically what sticks to your glass when you swirl it. What is sticking to your glass, and what that residue that sticks to the glass is legs. So a lot of some of these wine experts, they'll swirl and look at the legs, because they'll see what is the residue, left, on the glass. When you're drinking red wines, apparently, if the more legs, the better. The more aged it is, is what I've always thought.
So I have one for you. I have one for you.
Okay.
What is the robe on a wine?
What is the what?
The robe, R-O-B-E.
The robe?
Mm-hmm.
The robe on the wine.
Oh, my gosh, I might actually have one. Oh,
you have me.
Oh no! So this is cool. So the robe, and this used to be a way to distinguish Old World from New World red wines. I'm not sure if it still stands, but it's a good way to tell. So the robe is when you notice they always hold there's a white piece of paper or a napkin underneath the glass of wine when vintners or wine connoisseurs are tasting wine, and they'll look and what you do is the robe is basically that lighter colored. Where the wine fades from its natural color to the whiteness of the paper below it. That little ribbon around the glass where it fades out to the white, that's called the robe. So if it's a narrow robe,
very good.
If it's a narrow robe, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got one. Oh god, I thought we were gonna have to resort to the plight, the blight for me to win one on that. But you know that story as well. But why the French really hate America, we'll get into that another time. But so that robe, so if it fades out slowly, it's typically one type of wine, Old World or New World, and if it fades out quickly, it's the opposite. I'm not going to tell you which, but I believe. All right, okay. From what I recall, I believe if it fades out quickly, it's Old World. If it fades out slowly, it's New World. I could be wrong on that, but anyway. All right, hey, we've got time.
Hey, that's a great one to look up.
Yeah. So there's time for one more. See if you can stump the chump here.
Oh, I don't know. You're an expert. How about tannins? What do you know about tannins?
So tannins, that's I know about tannins. Tannins are that kind of gritty, dry mouthfeel you get. Like if you were to you remember, so you get the stem of the grape. So there's a little stem on the grape, and you accidentally get that in your mouth, and you chew on that, and it's like this dry. It's like you chew on a tea bag, right? It's that drying of the mouth. Those tannins, that particular chemical compound that's found in the grape skins, in seeds, if you've ever chewed up a grape seed, or in the stems, it's the same compound found in tea and other substances that dries your mouth. That gives it the kind of weird feel in your mouth. Big cabs, certain other wines have that. It's quite pronounced. So,
and it does give you that dry feeling. I think tannins have a lot to do with the dryness of wine.
Okay, so we're going to have to wrap it up real quick. Are you going to come back on next Wednesday? We do another Wine on Wednesday because it would be really fun.
I would love to.
Awesome.
I would love to. This is a lot of fun.
All right, give Tom big hugs from me. Anything else is from you. I really appreciate it on short notice. You're one of my favorite people up in Northwest Arkansas. And congratulations to Matt McClure at the 21C at the Hive. All right. Thank you again. All right, listener, Chef Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro. We're done. One more day in the books. It is Wine Down Wednesday. Go find a reasonably priced glass of wine that you like or something expensive. I don't care. Have a good night. Ciao for now. We'll talk to you tomorrow.